All right, Steelers Nation, let's talk about something that could shake the very foundation of this franchise. But first, before we dive into this exclusive and honestly surprising report, you already know the mindset in Pittsburgh. This is an organization that is constantly striving to improve, to evolve, and to put itself in the best possible position to win championships. Every move, every decision, every risk is calculated with one goal in mind: bringing results back to the Steel City. So if you respect that commitment, if you ride with this team through every high and every low, go ahead right now and hit that like button. And let's break this down together. By the way, if you're looking for official Steelers gear, jerseys, hoodies, hats, or the new Sideline collection, I left a link to the official store in the description and comment. It helps the channel and keeps you geared up for the season. Because what we're about to discuss today might be one of the most controversial possibilities we've heard in a long time. Is it possible that TJ Watt could become a trade candidate next offseason? Yeah, take a second and let that sink in. We're talking about the face of the defense, a generational pass rusher, a player who embodies everything Steelers football stands for: toughness, intensity, dominance. And yet, according to league executives featured in a recent set of predictions, this scenario is at least being discussed behind the scenes. Now, let's be very clear. This is not something that's happening right now. This is not a done deal. But it is a conversation that's starting to surface, and it's one that deserves serious attention. Because when you dig into the reasoning, it actually starts to make sense from a business standpoint. Watt is entering his early 30s. He'll turn 32 during the 2027 season. And while he's still playing at a high level, the reality of the NFL is that age catches up to everyone.
So now the front office is looking at a potential scenario where they could be investing heavily in multiple players at the exact same position. And in today's NFL, that's a tough pill to swallow. It forces difficult questions. Can you justify allocating that much cap space to one position group? Can you maintain roster balance while doing so? And most importantly, does it align with the long-term vision of the team? Now here's where things get emotional. Because TJ Watt isn't just another player. He's a legacy figure. Drafted in the first round back in 2017, he has grown into one of the most dominant defenders in football. He's been the heart of this defense for years. The kind of player you build around. The kind of player you don't let go. But the NFL is a business. And sometimes, even the most beloved players become part of difficult decisions. Looking at his recent production, Watt is still making an impact. In 2025, despite missing some time, he recorded 53 tackles, 10 tackles for loss, 7 sacks, an interception, multiple pass breakups, and forced turnovers. Those are not numbers of a declining player. Those are numbers of someone still capable of changing games. Which makes this entire conversation even more complicated. Because if you trade him, you're not just moving a contract. You're losing a cornerstone, a leader, a tone setter. And let's be honest, that's not something you can easily replace. Now, while this potential future storyline develops in the background, there's another major situation unfolding right now that continues to dominate headlines: the uncertainty surrounding Aaron Rodgers. And this one, it's happening in real time. Rodgers still hasn't signed a new deal. The expectation has always been that he would return. Everything, from the team's structure to its offseason decisions, has pointed in that direction. But until pen meets paper, nothing is official. And as we've seen time and time again with Rodgers, nothing is ever simple. He's been quiet, cryptic, strategic. There have been conflicting reports about meetings, timelines, and intentions. But according to...
Still, his presence matters. Not just for performance, but for clarity. Right now, the Steelers are operating in a state of uncertainty. The locker room doesn't fully know what the quarterback situation looks like. The coaching staff is preparing for multiple scenarios. And the fan base? Left waiting. And that's where these two storylines begin to connect. Because both situations, Watt's long-term future and Rodgers' short-term decision, highlight the same underlying reality. The Pittsburgh Steelers are entering a period of transition. This is not the same predictable, stable organization we've seen in years past. There's a new coaching staff, a shifting roster, young talent emerging, veteran stars facing uncertain futures. It's the beginning of something new. And with that comes risk. Now, looking ahead to the 2026 season, expectations are complicated. There's talent on this roster. There's potential. There are pieces that suggest this team can compete. But there are also inconsistencies, questions about offensive explosiveness, concerns about depth, uncertainty at key positions. This feels less like a finished contender and more like a team in the early stages of a larger evolution. A foundation year, a setup for something bigger down the road. And in that kind of environment, every decision matters.
Since being drafted in the 3rd round back in 2023, Herbig has been stuck in a crowded room. Playing behind established stars like TJ Watt and Alex Highsmith, his opportunities have been limited. But every time he's been on the field, he's made an impact. We're talking about 16 sacks and 9 forced fumbles in just 45 games. That's efficiency. That's explosiveness. That's a player who knows how to affect the game, even without being a full-time starter. And over the past few seasons, his role has been steadily increasing. As a rookie, he played just 17% of the defensive snaps. That's expected. He was learning, developing, adjusting to the speed of the NFL. But then came the jump. In 2024, his snap share climbed to 50%. In 2025, it went even higher, reaching 60%. And when TJ Watt missed time due to injury, Herbig stepped up in a big way. He recorded a career-high 7.5 sacks, along with 3 forced fumbles, 30 tackles, 18 quarterback hits, and even showed his versatility with pass deflections and an interception. That's not just solid production. That's starter-level performance. And if you want even deeper proof, let's talk about the analytics. According to Pro Football Focus, Herbig ranked 6th among 119 qualified edge defenders. Let that sink in. 6th. That puts him in elite company, right alongside some of the biggest names in the league. Players like Myles Garrett, Micah Parsons, Aiden Hutchinson, the absolute best at what they do. And Herbig is right there with them. So now the question becomes, what happens when you give a player like that more snaps, more responsibility, more opportunities? So now, the Steelers are facing a very interesting situation. On one hand, they have a young, ascending talent in Herbig, just 25 years old, entering his prime and showing elite-level production. On the other hand, they have established veterans like TJ Watt and Alex Highsmith, both on significant contracts, both key pieces of the defense. And that brings us to the big question. Can the Steelers afford to keep all three? Because if Herbig continues to rise and earns that big contract, something has to give. We've already heard speculation about the possibility of moving TJ Watt in the future to create financial flexibility. Now, let's be clear, that would be a massive decision. Watt is a franchise legend, the face of the defense, a player who defines what it means to wear the black and gold. But this is the reality of the modern NFL. You have to balance loyalty with long-term strategy. You have to think about the future. And sometimes, that means making difficult choices. If the Steelers believe that Herbig can become a full-time star, if they see him as a cornerstone for the next era of this defense, then they may have to adjust their approach. Not today, not tomorrow, but soon. And that's why the 2026 season is so important. This is the year where everything becomes clear. Can Herbig handle an expanded role? Can he maintain or even improve his level of production? Can he prove that he's not just a rotational player, but a true difference maker? If the answer is yes, then the conversation changes completely. Because now you're not just talking about potential, you're talking about a player you have to keep. So now, Steelers Nation, I want to hear from you.